USS Alaska and her sister Guam were the only two ships of their class to make it out of the shipyard, and they would spend pretty much their entire careers together. Alaska had been authorized under the Fleet Expansion Act on July 19, 1940, and ordered on September 9th that year. USS Alaska, the lead ship of the Alaska-class large cruisers, was laid down just 10 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 17, 1941. She was launched on August 15, 1943, and commissioned on June 17, 1944. After her commissioning, she was instantly swept into World War II, which was still in full swing. Alaska steamed down to Hampton Roads, escorted by the destroyers Simpson and Broome. The ship was then deployed for a shakedown cruise, first into the Chesapeake Bay and then into the Caribbean, off Trinidad. On the cruise, she was escorted by the destroyers Bainbridge and Decatur. After completing the cruise, Alaska returned to the Philadelphia Navy Yard for some minor alterations. On November 12th, she left Philadelphia in the company of the destroyer minelayer Thomas E. Fraser, bound for 2 weeks of sea trials off Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. On December 2nd, she left Cuba for the Pacific, transiting the Panama Canal 2 days later and reaching San Diego on December 12th. There, her gun crews trained for shore bombardment and anti-aircraft fire. On January 8, 1945, Alaska left California for Hawaii, arriving in Pearl Harbor on January 13th. There, she participated in further training and was assigned to Task Group 12.2, which left for Ulithi on January 29th. The task group reached Ulithi on February 6th and was merged into Task Group 58.5, part of Task Group 58, the Fast Carrier Task Force. Task Group 58.5 was assigned to provide anti-aircraft defense for the aircraft carriers, and Alaska would be assigned to Enterprise and Saratoga. The fleet sailed for Japan on February 10th to conduct airstrikes against Tokyo and the surrounding airfields. The Japanese did not attack the fleet during the operation. Alaska was then transferred to Task Group 58.4 and assigned to support the assault on Iwo Jima. She served in the screen for the carriers off Iwo Jima for 19 days, after which time she had to return to Ulithi to replenish fuel and supplies. She remained with TG 58.4 for the Battle of Okinawa. She was assigned to screen the carriers Yorktown and Intrepid, and the fleet left Ulithi on March 14th and reached its operational area southeast of Kyushu 4 days later. Airstrikes on Okinawa started that day and destroyed 17 Japanese aircraft on the ground. Here, Alaska finally saw combat as the Japanese launched a major airstrike on the American fleet. Her anti-aircraft gunners destroyed a Yokosuka P-1Y bomber attempting to crash into Intrepid. Shortly thereafter, Alaska was warned that American aircraft were in the vicinity. About 10 minutes later, her gunners spotted an unidentified aircraft approaching in what they felt was a threatening manner. They shot the plane down, which sadly turned out to be a Grumman F-6F Hellcat fighter, though the pilot was thankfully uninjured. Later that afternoon, Alaska shot down a second Japanese bomber. If you are enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe, leave me a like, and let me know in the comments section. The following day, the carrier Franklin was badly damaged by several bomb hits and a kamikaze. Alaska and her only sister ship, Guam, 2 other cruisers, and several destroyers were detached to create Task Group 58.2.9 to escort the crippled Franklin back to Ulithi. On the voyage back to port, another D-4Y bomber attacked Franklin, though the ships were unable to shoot it down. Gunfire from one of the 5-inch guns accidentally caused flash burns on several men standing nearby. These were the only casualties suffered by her crew during the war. Alaska then took on the role of fighter director. Using her search radar, she vectored fighters to intercept and destroy a Kawasaki Ki-45 heavy fighter. On March 22nd, the ships reached Ulithi, and Alaska was detached to rejoin TG 58.4. After returning to her unit, Alaska continued to screen for the aircraft carriers off Okinawa. On March 27th, she was detached to conduct a bombardment of Minamidaito. She was joined by Guam, 2 light cruisers, and Destroyer Squadron 47. On the night of March 27th to the 28th, she fired 45 12-inch shells and 352 5-inch rounds at the island. The ships rejoined TG-58.4 at a refueling point, after which they returned to Okinawa to support the landings when they began on April 1st. On the evening of April 11th, Alaska shot down one Japanese plane, assisted in the destruction of another, and claimed what might have been an Oka-piloted rocket bomb. On April 16th, the ship shot down another 3 aircraft and assisted with 3 others. Throughout the rest of the month, her heavy anti-aircraft fire succeeded in driving off Japanese bombers. Alaska then returned to Ulithi to resupply, arriving on May 14th. She was then assigned to TG-38.4, the reorganized carrier task force. The fleet then returned to Okinawa, where Alaska continued in her anti-aircraft defense role. On June 9th, she and Guam bombarded Okidaito. TG-38.4 then steamed to San Pedro Bay in Leyte Gulf for rest and maintenance. Alaska stayed here from June 13th until July 13th, when she was assigned to Cruiser Task Force 95 along with her sister Guam, under the command of Rear Admiral Francis S. Lowe. On July 16th, Alaska and Guam conducted a sweep into the East China and Yellow Seas to sink Japanese shipping vessels. They only had limited success, however, and returned to the fleet on July 23rd. They then joined a major raid, which included 3 battleships and 3 escort carriers, into the estuary of the Yangtze River off Shanghai. Again, the operation met with limited success. In the course of her service during World War II, USS Alaska was awarded 3 battle stars. Thank you so much to our amazing YouTube members and patrons. If you'd like to have some awesome perks like episodes a full day in advance, join our YouTube memberships today. On August 30th, 1945, Alaska left Okinawa for Japan to participate in the 7th Fleet Occupation Force. She arrived in Incheon, Korea on September 8th and supported U.S. Army operations there until September 26th, when she left for Qingdao, China, arriving the next day. There, she supported the 6th Marine Division until November 13th, where she returned to Incheon to take on Army soldiers as part of Operation Magic Carpet, the mass repatriation of millions of American servicemen from Asia and Europe. Alaska left Incheon with a contingent of soldiers bound for San Francisco. After reaching it, she left for the Atlantic via the Panama Canal, which she transited on December 13th. The ship arrived in the Boston Navy Yard on December 18th, where preparations were made to place the ship in reserve. She left Boston on February 1st, 1946, for Bayonne, New Jersey, where she would be berthed in reserve. She arrived there the next day, and on August 13th, she was removed from active service, though she wouldn't be formally decommissioned until February 17th, 1947. In 1958, the Bureau of Ships prepared 2 feasibility studies to see if Alaska and Guam were suitable to be converted to guided missile cruisers. The first study involved removing all the guns in favor of 4 different missile systems. At $160 million, this was seen as too costly, so a second study was performed. This study left the forward batteries in place and added a reduced version of the first plan for the aft. This would have cost $82 million, and was still seen as too costly. As a result, the conversion was abandoned, and Alaska was instead stricken from the Naval Register on June 1, 1960. On June 30th, she was sold to the Lipset division of Luria Brothers to be broken up for scrap.